Welcome, I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, United Nations agency raises alarm over 75,000 children in Nigeria's northeast in danger of starving to death in the next few months. Distribution of relief materials to internally displaced persons in Abuja ends in chaos as impatient recipients grab items from aid workers. Senate rejects 46 non-career ambassador nominees list from President Buhari. Lawmakers cite numerous petitions against the nominations. And Egypt's Supreme Court overturns death sentence handed down to former leader Mohamed Morsi and others.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's central bank says Heritage Bank is not distressed.
And on sports news tonight, Austrian tennis star Dominic Thiem edges closer to semi-final after victory over Frenchman Gael Monfils at ATP World Tour Finals.
Hello, I'm Ibrahim Adra, and from Abuja, at least 31 people killed as gunmen attack 4 communities in southern Kaduna State.
The United Nations has continued to raise alarm over the humanitarian situation in the northeast. According to the agency, about 75,000 children in Nigeria's northeast region may die of malnutrition and starvation over the next few months unless they receive urgent humanitarian aid. This is according to the acting humanitarian coordinator of the UN Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, Pt.1. Now, he told journalists in Abuja that 7 million out of 14.8 million people affected by the security crisis in the region are in need of humanitarian assistance.
14.8 million Nigerians are reportedly living in Nigeria's northeast region with different levels of humanitarian crisis resulting from the Boko Haram insurgency. Out of this number, 7.8 million are in need of humanitarian assistance, with only about 4.7 million targeted for aid in 2016. Protection, safe and secure environment are required by some 5.5 million persons. Over 1 million children are in need of access to education, and at least 1.8 million are displaced and living in camps. But what is most troubling is the reports by Peter Lumberg, an official of the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, which warns that over 400,000 children are in critical condition and up to 75,000 of them risk death over the next few months without urgent humanitarian aid, especially food supply.
Children who are brought in with malnourishment, we can see that they have, some of them are changing their hair color towards this brownish color. We can see that the skin is becoming a different shape of the skin. The target is to work with 5.1 million in the whole food security. That includes food distribution, but it includes the seeds, the tools, everything that can empower people.
Underfunding is the major challenge. Mr. Lumberg says $448 million is required to bring sanity back to Nigeria's northeast, and far less than that is all they have.
They have received so far $180 million. So the appeal is seriously underfunded.
Health, protection, shelter, clean water, food, nutrition and education. These are important humanitarian needs of these Nigerians. The UN Humanitarian Aid Office says a humanitarian hub in the country is being considered, as well as intensified multi-sectoral and multi-agency approach to tackle the humanitarian crisis. Omelopo, Nadi, Channels Television News.
In the meantime, internally displaced persons in Abuja today disrupted the distribution of relief materials by the Red Cross Society. During the exercise, a crowd of impatient IDPs grabbed materials being distributed by aid workers, which led to a free-for-all. The acting Secretary General of the Red Cross says the relief materials were meant to address the rising cases of malaria in the camp. Our correspondent Gloria Umezuki reports.
The Sunshine Uncompleted Estate IDP camp, Apo, once again came alive. The sight of vehicles loaded with cartons of mosquito nets and torchlights energized the internally displaced persons, mostly the children who appeared hungry upon arrival. On one side, the Red Cross Society organized the displaced persons in queues, ready to distribute hundreds of mosquito nets to each family to address the menace of malaria in the camp.
The federal government cannot meet all. We are to feed, you and I, we are citizens, we are to feed the gaps. Federal government cannot meet up all the needs of its citizens. So individual organizations, individual citizens, we are to meet the needs of others, the need of IDPs.
But only 15 minutes into the exercise, there was confusion. The crowd of IDPs apparently had grown impatient with the due process and so decided to handle it themselves. On the other side, other displaced persons were given free polio treatment.
Recently, there was an outbreak of polio, in some part of northwestern Nigeria. And so because of that, this outbreak response was organized as an intervention. And the IDP camps are special targets to make sure that as many of these children get to be immunized.
This is not the only camp badly in need of relief materials. Many others have appealed to the government to pay close attention to their welfare for their continued survival. Gloria Umezuki, Channels Television News.
Away from the situation in the IDP camps, the Senate has rejected a list of 46 non-career ambassadors which President Buhari sent to the lawmakers for confirmation. The senators cited the alleged myriad of petitions which the Committee on Foreign Affairs received over the nomination of the ambassadors as the reason for their decision. While the list of the rejected nominees has been sent back to the presidency for amendment, the lawmakers have confirmed 47 career ambassadors earlier sent to the upper legislative chamber by the president.
In July this year, these career ambassadorial nominees were screened by members of the Senate's Committee on Foreign Affairs. An otherwise almost routine screening exercise generated headlines across the country as two of the nominees had difficulties in singing the national anthem. Fast forward to Tuesday's legislative proceedings, lawmakers are considering President Buhari's request for the confirmation of career and non-career ambassadorial nominees.
And host of others.
The Senate begins with the career ambassadorial nominees. However, some lawmakers reminded their colleagues of a dismal showing of some of the career ambassadorial nominees at their screening exercise.
For an ambassadorial nominee not to recite the national anthem, and then you are recommending the ambassadorial nominee for confirmation. So when he gets there and he is about to take his duty post, and they say, we put on the Nigerian national anthem, he will be nodding with his head.
I appreciate the concerns of one or two persons. But because I participated, and because I saw what happened there, the persons recited the national anthem to a point, and there was slight confusion, slight one, and that could be pardoned.
Regardless of these issues, the Senate's Committee on Foreign Affairs is recommending that the career ambassadorial nominees be confirmed. It's time for the consideration of non-career ambassadorial nominees.
The 46 that we have is even having more problems than the 47. I mean, so far now we have received over 250 petitions on the last the non-careers. We're finding it difficult to start our screening.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the list of non-career ambassadors should be sent to Mr. President for resubmission in view of the series of petitions that were received. Those in favor of that say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
It would be recalled that some lawmakers had earlier faulted the presidency for not including an ambassadorial nominee for the Federal Capital Territory. The non-career ambassadorial list would now be returned to the presidency for a review before it is sent back to the Senate for confirmation. Linda Akibi, Channels Television News.
The Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, has given the assurance that the Buhari administration will do all it can to support the Nigerian military to ensure that terrorism and hate are stamped out of the nation. The Vice President was speaking at the launch of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day Emblem Appeal Fund in the Presidential Villa. Our State House correspondent Chukwuma Onekwusi reports.
The Nigerian Armed Forces have seen it all. They fought in the First and Second World Wars. They fought the Biafran War that kept Nigeria together. And now they are the ones dealing with terrorism and hate in the land. Many of them have died, leaving their families behind, while many are living and have suffered various deprivations as a result of wars. The Vice President says the administration will do all it can to appreciate them.
Let it be said over and over again that as an administration, we will continue to honor our military forces in their arduous ongoing fight against terrorists. And we will do all we can to remember their sacrifices and appreciate their families who bear the brunt at different levels of pain and loss. As a nation, we are grateful to you, our loyal and gallant troops, for ensuring that terrorism and hate do not prevail in our land, and doing so with such commitment and fervor.
He makes the donation and appeals to the public to support programs designed to support the Legion and families of the fallen heroes.
It's my pleasure to announce a donation in the sum of 10 million naira towards the appeal fund on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria.
The Minister of Defense says the occasion is unique, coming at a time when Nigeria is winning the war against Boko Haram. He urged all Nigerians to adorn the emblem as a show of appreciation of what those men have done.
I encourage all, therefore, to contribute generously to remember those who lost their lives and veterans of our armed forces who made sacrifices under harsh conditions for peace and security of our nation.
First to be decorated with the emblem is the Vice President on behalf of the President. The chairman of the Nigerian Legion, Mika Gaya, is sincerely grateful to the federal government and the Nigerian people for the support so far. Between now and January next year, you've been urged to buy and wear the emblem to support the Nigerian Legion. As a nation, you owe them that care and love, especially families of the fallen heroes. Lest we may forget. Chukwuma Onekwusi, Channels Television News.
To legal matters now. A senior detective with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has been testifying about how a former Chief of Naval Staff, retired Vice Admiral Usman Jibrin, bought a property worth 600 million naira using a private company, Harbour Bay International Limited, as a front. Mr. Shehu Mohammed told the Federal Capital Territory High Court that the company has Mr. Jibrin's wife, Lami, as director, but other directors told the EFCC that they have never authorized any transaction. According to the witness, the former naval chief bought the property from the account of the Naval Engineering Services without being captured in the budget. Mr. Jibrin and two others, retired Rear Admirals Bala Michelia and Shehu Adamu, are charged with offences bordering on criminal conspiracy. And in part two, after the break, police and Shiites trade blame over deadly clashes in Kano. Inspector General of Police warns religious groups against lawlessness. That's in a moment. Please stay with us.